My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. Well, today is the first day of the month of April, which is a day in many cultures known as April Fool's Day, a day to play some lighthearted pranks on one's friends or family. There's some joking that may go on, and it's a day when, if we're not careful, we could find ourselves maybe the recipients of some of these jokes. Someone may try to fool us in some way. I usually forget that it's the first day of the month of April, and then someone will say something totally outlandish to me that I get very nervous about or go into a bit of a panic, and only later do they reveal, no, April Fools, it's not really true. I'm not quitting the church. I'm not broken down in my car 3 hours away and need you to come and give me a ride. April Fools. And so these little lighthearted jokes are a way of starting off the month of April if we're unsuspecting, or maybe if we didn't realize as we spend these few minutes with you, Jesus, in prayer today. It's a good reminder that there may be some jokes coming our way. And that's one way of being foolish, that there could be a gentle, lighthearted laughter. It's foolishness is something that's out of keeping with reality. And good foolishness can sometimes be a fun thing, just a way of not taking ourselves too seriously, being able to be a little bit more lighthearted. But bad foolishness is when there are things that we should be taking seriously, things that are important, and we don't. We neglect them. The way of foolishness is to not follow wisdom, particularly the wisdom of God. And a bad foolishness is when those things which are essential to us, and no joke, are things that we can neglect, or we can really go down the bad path. And in our gospel today, we have one such occasion of that bad path. The Pharisees are going down a very bad path, particularly, Jesus, with their relationship to you, that people are seeing the miracles that are being done, and particularly with the raising of Lazarus, people are really believing in Jesus, and the Pharisees, they don't want to believe. And they're not even denying that the miracles are happening. They just don't want it to be true. And that is a path of foolishness. And they make a very foolish decision to continue down that wrong path. I think some of us may have had this occasion in our life where we know that we've started down a wrong path, and we think, well, I'm already down the path. I've already started down that path, and so I have to keep going. An example could be, for example, being caught in a lie. That I've started lying. I told one lie, and then unfortunately, as a result of that lie, I have to tell a second lie or a third lie. And before we know it, we keep on lying, and we think, well, if I were to stop now, I would have to reveal that actually I've told so much of a web of lies. I've told so many lies, and so I need to just keep going. I just need to keep going down that road of lying. And that's a very foolish decision, to continue down a road of lies just because we've started down that way. In psychology, it's something called the gambler's fallacy, where we think that we've already lost a certain amount of money, so that how could we lose? We're gonna eventually win money back. Or I've already lost, so I might as well just bet the rest of it because we're already too far gone. And the Pharisees in today's gospel are falling right into that foolishness. where they've decided that they don't want to believe in you, Jesus. And they've decided that even if you're working these great signs, they're not going to follow you. And so we hear the Pharisees say, convening the Sanhedrin, what are we going to do? This man is performing many signs, and if we leave him alone, all will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our land and our nation. Now, how small-minded is that? That they're concerned about the Romans. Now, the Romans, they're nothing to ignore. They are the Roman Empire. They've conquered many peoples, but they're so afraid. And Jesus here is curing the sick. He's giving sight to the blind, and he's raising the dead. And they're worried about the Romans because of their small-mindedness and their foolishness, that they're going down the totally wrong path. They only have a worldly way of looking at this. And it's very sad. It's sad to see that type of foolishness, but we can do that all the time when we go down the path of sin. That we don't want to lose what little things we have, or we're afraid of things that really in the big picture are not where our primary concern may be. I don't want to go to church because then my friends won't think as well of me. They think that I'm cool, and if they see me, particularly around the Easter time, going to Mass, then they're going to think less of me. They're going to realize that I actually am a religious person, and I'm going to lose my friends. They'll take away both our land and our nation. Right? These things are traps that we can easily fall into. And Jesus, you want us to be courageous in the face of this. You want us to have that courageous outlook, that we don't fall into these traps of small-mindedness, and that we definitely don't continue down that wrong path. That if we've started down the wrong path, if we realize that maybe I haven't been following the signs, maybe I haven't been really living the way that I should, well, today, right now is a great time to change. In John's Gospel, at this point of John's Gospel, toward the end of chapter 11, we're getting very close to Holy Week. In fact, we hear that the Passover of the Jews was near, and that's the Passover where Jesus will be put to death. And even then, it's not too late. Even then, it's not too late for everyone to just turn around. The Pharisees, the Sanhedrin, the Jewish leaders, they still could have followed Jesus. They still could have welcomed him as the Messiah. What would the story of salvation have been like if they had actually listened to him, if they'd actually welcomed him? It wasn't too late. And when we read the story and we already know how it turns out, maybe we think that it was. Maybe we think that it actually, they had already had their chance and they've already turned away and all of the characters are set where they're supposed to be. And the response to that is no. They actually still had free choice. They could have actually welcomed Jesus. They could have believed in him. Jesus' own people, the leaders of his own religion, could have believed in him. And the whole story could have turned out differently, still resulting in our salvation, but in a different way. But they didn't. And so we too, if we're down that wrong path, or if we just haven't jumped on board yet, then now is the time, and it's not too late. In the northern hemisphere of the globe, starting with the month of April, many of our university years may be beginning to come to a close. And it can be easy to say, it's the end of the school year. I can wait till next year. Next year, I want to grow in holiness. Next year, I want to try to live some kind of life of piety when I'm at school. I want to try to, we'll do it next year. We're going to get through the summer. We're going to have a nice summer break, and then we'll come back to it next year. And if our reading today on the verge of Holy Week teaches us anything, it's that we shouldn't put it off. We shouldn't keep going down a wrong path because that's the path we've been on for most of the academic year. Rather, we want to jump in and live holiness today. Now, it's not too late. Right now, we can still turn back to Jesus. And so let's have that grace to not be fools on this April Fool's Day, but rather to be very wise and turn back to our Lord Jesus today, now, and follow that path of holiness he calls us to. Mary, help us to be wise as you are the seat of wisdom. Help us to be wise in following your Son, Jesus. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations which you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help in putting them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.